Hello and welcome to North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. My name is Serge, and we've got on the show today a Nelly.
Hi.
And a Wheeler.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
A reminder that North 100 is brought to you by you with the support of the Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Welcome to part 2 of our Dominaria United set review. Today we're going to be covering black and red cards. A reminder for our set reviews that this is not exhaustive nor is it comprehensive. We only cover the cards that we think are relevant to the format. If it's making a splash elsewhere, might not matter, all that much to us. And on the last episode, we asked you for comments on cards you think that we may have missed, and we've got 2 that a lot of folk asked about. So the first one is Angel of Wrath. So I'll bring that up. It's a 4-mana 3/4 Angel for 2 white. It kicks for black, it kicks for red, has flying and lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, deal 2 damage to any target. If it was kicked twice, do that again. Wheeler.
To clarify, a Chroma is the Angel of Wrath. This is the Archangel of Wrath. And frankly, I'd rather play a Chroma in a deck than this. And I don't play a Chroma that often. See, the thing is, when we're looking, I'm going to direct this to you, the listener. The thing is, when we're building a Canadian Highlander deck, and we're playing 4 drops, or 5 drops, or 6 drops.
Which is all of the above.
Yes. The flexibility gives it some points, but remember, we're drawing from the entire card pool of Magic the Gathering. Is this better than any other 4-drop you could play in your deck? Probably not. 5 drops?
Almost certainly not.
Way worse.
Probably not.
Yeah.
6 drops?
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like flexibility. I like 3/4 flyers for 4. Love the stuff. But I'm struggling to figure a place, even in like Angel Tribal. I don't want to play this because I would just rather play any of the other Angels at this mana slot that do more than just, kind of being a road bump. Yeah.
All right. The other card that got mentioned a ton, and probably like 2 to 3 times as much of this, is a blue 2-mana Saga, Founding the Third Path. So 1 in a blue, it has 3 chapters. Chapter 1, you may cast an instant or sorcery with mana value 1 or 2 from your hand without paying its mana cost. Chapter 2, target player mills 4. Chapter 3, exile target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, copy it, and you may cast that copy. Now, importantly, this Saga also has read ahead, so you can have it enter on any specific chapter, which gives it more flexibility and stuff. Now, interesting to note about this card, we thought about including it in the set review and then cut it. And then we thought about including it in the comments section as a card to talk about and then cut it, then had technical issues, which gave us a week to think about it and then reintroduced it. Wheeler, you've been the person who's added it and then vetoed it and then re-added it. Let's throw to you again.
Okay. So I talked this over with a couple of blue players. Now that especially we've had time to play it.
Okay.
That's important. It's kind of cheating. Usually set reviews come before.
Yeah, you got to go blind, right? Yeah.
But that's okay. This is TV.
What is time?
Yeah. So I don't hate this card as an improved version of the like mission briefing, flood of recollection style card. The cards that you would play in your grindier blue decks because all you want to do is ancestral recall over and over and over again. This one has a little more added utility, the enchantment, and obviously it being an enchantment comes with its own little kind of nuances and whatnot. So if I'm playing a deck that is looking to cast Ancestral Recall a whole bunch, or say Duress, Thoughtseize, Expressive Iteration, that kind of thing, maybe like even a Growth Spiral sort of card, I don't hate it. Like if I'm a slower blue deck with more proactive spells to be played at 1 and 2, it's okay. The mill's not nothing. Milling yourself is huge. Last night at the Highlander tournament, Robin Sorensen spent all night trying to tell me to play Merfolk's Secret Keeper.
All right, you're going to have to remind me what that one does.
It's a 1-mana 0/4 Merfolk Wizard from Eldraine that has as like an adventure, which is pay 1 blue, mill a player for 4 cards. And like other people are like, yeah, actually, yeah, it's pretty good defensively. You know, like that you set yourself up for delve for all the cards that let you cast for the graveyard. You know, maybe get a Murktide region out there. And it's an 0/4. It's just got a huge butt. But like what I'm getting at is I don't think that's necessarily correct. But what I'm getting at is when you have players as prolific as say Robin saying like, God, I wish I could mill for 4. You know, there's something to that ability. So I think there's enough things going on that like in the right slower blue deck with some proactive spells, it's okay. It's pretty fine. You know?
So like the deck that wants him to Turok on turn 2 is probably pretty happy to play
yeah, Sultai Control, Blue Moon, like a 4-colored, you know, like a Jeskai or like a check pile style deck.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or High Tide too.
I was going to mention High Tide if nobody else did. It seems like if you're just trying to max out a number of ways to rebuy the High Tide, maybe it's okay.
Yeah. High Tide's been a little quiet since Hull Breacher dropped his mixtape.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
Yeah.
All right. That's the recap portion. Let's get to the new cards, starting with the first black one. And Nelly, kick us off, friend.
Here we are. It's Activated Sleeper from the Commander set. 0/0 for 2 and a black Phyrexian Shapeshifter with Flash. And you may have Activated Sleeper enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature card in a graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, except it's Phyrexian in addition to its other types. That's nice. This is like a black extra metamorph or something. I mean, maybe not quite, but it has Flash. So like, yeah, Flash, I feel like competes with being able to copy artifacts even. Like this card, I think, is probably going to see a lot of play in a lot of different homes.
Wheeler and I are both ready to jump in so quickly. I know you're gonna, I got two
Where
things.
do you want to play it?
Let's see if I can get in ahead of him. One is Pod. It's very happy. That's a deck that creatures die in. 2, Sandy B, because it has 0 power, which makes it so good.
Yeah.
No, your face.
I think aristocrats could think about playing this.
2 words.
Okay.
Meat and eggs.
Yeah.
Protean Hulk.
Yeah.
Sandy B, even Flash combo. Like we used to have to rely on Body Double, which is a 5 mana version of this effectively. Like it's going to do the same thing because it's all happening on one turn when you're creature killing. But like Protean Hulk dies.
I was going to say, could you explain the relevance of 0 power here, specifically with Protean Hulk?
Well, it's the mana cost is the important part.
Oh, right. Yes,
because when Protean Hulk dies, you get total CMC of 6. And so usually your first hit is going to be like a 5 mana reanimation card. So like Karmic Guide, Body Double, maybe a Revel Arc. But if you get Revel Arc first, sorry, you've lost.
Yep.
And then a sack outlet. Or like a backup sack outlet, or like a protection, like a Sylvan Safekeeper. And then you do it again and again and again and again. But sometimes, like every iteration opens you up to getting got. Usually it doesn't happen. You learn how to play around it. You learn how to like pick your spots or whatever. But like the fact that you now can just replace some of these piles with a card that lets you just go like, oh, Activated Sleeper is 3, my protection spell, and Safi Eric's Daughter, which can just keep the trade going.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Safi's not missing in this one.
If you already have the sack outlet, your first get can be Activated Sleeper, Safi, and Elvish, or at Sylvan Safekeeper, right?
Yeah.
And that's really gross.
You could start putting Grand Abolisher into your lines too. Like it just flexibility is the name of the game for these creature combos and for like Hulk piles and stuff. And 3, we just shaved 2 mana, and you didn't really get to do Flash Oracle stuff. CDH players are like, go on. But now we can start getting like we can get a little degenerate with our piles.
Obviously a combo card.
Yeah.
Does it have a mid-range or aggro home? Because it is a 3 mana flash card. You're making a face. It's important to ask. You got to evaluate it from different angles.
I wouldn't expect to see it in like a Jund mid-range or 4-color necessarily, but I was thinking maybe aristocrats.
Oh, okay.
Just because like the sack outlets are all over the place, so maybe you could, like there'll be lines where you want to double up on one thing or the other.
Yeah. No, my face was I was about to sound like in my head I was sounding like an asshole, but I was going to say mid-range draws of these creature combo decks, which they are famously right.
Sure.
Yeah,
like Sandy B could just be like,
about Sandy B, right?
Yeah, here's a Siege Rhino, and like you said, Pod. I think Pod is now right into that spread. And so, like, you could just be like, I guess I'll pod my like Voice of Resurgence into this activated sleeper, and now I've got a bunch of elementals killing you. Like as something as
Yeah, I was thinking about this for a second, maybe for Recurring Nightmare, but I think that's too cute. No, it's just a creature combo card.
There's
fine.
got to be someone who's going to put it into show and tell deck, or what's the
sneak attack.
Yeah, sneak.
Yeah.
It's great with
Show,
snake
sure,
sneak attack,
sure,
right?
sure.
I haven't even
Still end of
started about
turn.
the Revelark
Yeah.
lines. It works
Sure,
with
yeah.
Vesperlark too. Oh,
That's what I was talking about, the power.
Right,
Vesperlark
works
and
great with
Revelark. Yeah.
Revelark and Vesperlark, yeah.
All right, let's move on. Next up, we have... Oh, I'm so glad I got this one. Braids! Arisen Nightmares, a 3-mana 3/3 legendary nightmare for 1 black. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sack a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, they lose a life. They lose 2 life, and you draw a card. Now, a disclaimer. This is templated similar to a punish mechanic, which means your opponent does have the opportunity to do the line that is worse for you at any given point. That being said, this is very good. A lot of cards in sort of attrition or pox matchups salt the earth and make the situation bad for both players. And then your goal is to try and build a deck that can gain an advantage in that wherein there is no advantage. Braids, which is very counterintuitive to this whole archetype of prison and stacks, lets you draw a card. So while you are trying to slowly attrition the board down by sacking something, hoping your opponent does, you can get a draw engine here. And if you get to a point in the game where your opponent has no permanents left, this is also win con. So this offers a lot of flexibility into an archetype which didn't typically have it. Now, mind you, it is a creature in an archetype that tries to be as hostile to other creatures as possible, but this is pretty cool and pretty fun, and expect to see it in all of your least favorite decks. Anything to add on that?
When I first saw it, I thought they really kind of did our girl dirty with allowing the opponent to choose, but just after I've only played it in drafts so far, I've gotten in 4 drafts or something. The Punisher mechanic on this one it feels more like Browbeat, where it's just both choices are bad enough. And the fact that you get to choose which permanent type you're sacrificing makes it better than it seems.
yeah. This doesn't, honestly, to me, it doesn't feel as much as like a Punisher mechanic. Like when you play with it, it does not feel like you're please misplay.
Right.
You're just like, all right, well, get rid of this food token. I'm either drawing cards, or you got nothing to sack, or playing it in lands decks. Oh my god, it's gross.
Or I'll sacrifice my 1/1 spirit, and you can sacrifice one of your angels if you want. No, okay, lose 2, I draw a card.
Yeah.
The fact that it's lose 2 and you draw a card makes you feel a lot better about this card.
Yeah.
If the life wasn't there, I actually think it would be significantly worse.
What's next?
I want to give this one to Nelson.
Yeah,
Not
okay,
to
you
mix-
take the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I added this one to the list. This is Cult Conscript. There's not a whole lot to say. It's a 2/1 for 1 black. Cult Conscript enters the battlefield tapped, and for 1 black, you can return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's only 2 mana. Oftentimes, they're making us pay 3 for that ability, but you can only activate it if a non-skeleton creature died in your control this turn. So it's a bit weaker than the one from Tarkir, where you can just attack with it, and then if it died that turn, you can pay 2 to bring it back. But this one can block, which sometimes matters. Expect to see every 2-power 1-drop in black brought up on North 100 as long as they keep me here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 things to add. 1, best friends with Skull Clamp.
Of course.
There's a whole list of cards that Skull Clamp players should have in the back of their head, which is 1 toughness and comes back, which is great. And 2, a cool interaction with this is, if a non-skeleton creature has died, you can actually activate that ability multiple times to sack it over and over and over. I mean, in the weird case, you're the deck that's playing 1 mana, 2/1s. You might not have 6 mana. But if you did, there's potential more upside from this, which is kind of cool. Anyways, back to Wheeler. Next card.
Cut down. 1 black for an instant. Destroy target creature with total power and toughness 5 or less. I've been thinking about this card since it got previewed. I still don't have a great answer for it.
But what about Fatal Push?
I can tell you why it's bad in Gladiator.
Yeah.
But actually, no, what that might be relevant. So I don't like this card in Gladiator because that's a format that has more raw stats built into the cards that get played.
The fact that it
Right?
can't kill like a token from that 5-mana green planeswalker from Korea feels so bad.
Vivian.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a great example. Like
Yeah.
3/3s are abundant.
Yeah.
Canlander, think of the scariest creatures running around that are at 3 or less, and that's like Hull Breacher, Opposition Agent, Vendilion Clique, Nimble Obstructionist, all that kind of stuff. So they die to cut down. My issue is, and maybe this is asking for too much for a 1-mana removal spell, but like I just have visions of me playing Reanimator with this in my hand, and my opponent has a Scavenging Ooze that's a 3/3, and I can't kill it. Or there's a Murktide Regent, and I can't kill it. Or it's just like Fury, Endurance. Like there are a bunch of things that just if I'm playing removal, it has to kill things. In 2022, it's got to kill basically everything.
Well, but what about Fatal Push? Like, you're probably still playing that, right?
Yeah, but Fatal Push can kill Omnath. And
All right, so it's got to be able to kill everything, but there's a bar that everything is in air quotes. You know what I mean?
At some point, you kind of got to go like, yeah, I need a little more juice. But like the fact that there are decks that do, focus on raw stats in Canlander,
Yeah.
that you want to have your cheap removal spells makes me a little, shy about it. But like, if this card is sliding in where like Ghastly Demise used to be in like blue-black, or like, I don't know, I could see maybe a Sultai list playing it as well. Like, it's a good supplementary removal spell, but you will die with this card in your hand.
Oh, yeah.
And there were instances where your opponent had like a Tombstalker, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
this Ghastly Demise sure feels bad.
Oh yeah, we've all been there. We've all died with a black removal spell in your hand, and the thing that's killing you is the one exception.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Eternal formats.
As the like player who's most known for playing a deck with the maximum number of cards that costs exactly 1 black pip, it probably says something that like I'm not very excited to play this. Like I'm already playing so many cards that remove a creature for 1 black mana, and like in Canadian Highlander, I just don't know that this necessarily makes the cut.
Like, I'd pay 4 life and cast Disfigure over this.
Happy to figure out in a year that I was very wrong.
Not
Yeah.
Disfigure. What am I thinking?
Dismember.
Dismember. Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
Disfigure also has things going on that this misses. Yeah.
All right, next up, we'll go to me here. Defiler of Flesh. Ooh, I'm getting all the spicy ones here. 4 mana, 4/4 Phyrexian Horror for 2 black. It has Menache. As an additional cost to cast this. Wait, it has the Phyrexian text, or the Defiler
It's a
text that I
Defiler.
mentioned last time. Yeah.
Yep.
Whenever you cast a black permanent spell, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains menace until end of turn. I like this a lot. Now, after we're gonna do red today, we're gonna do like a Defilers ranked talk. So I won't get too deep into that, but this is incredibly strong, specifically because black is a deck that is engineered around pain life. It's very pip heavy. It's very happy to accelerate itself that way. So even though stat wise 4/4 with menace, and it doesn't give like a permanent addition to the board, it pumps and it gives menace. This is an absolute house. There's decks that want to accelerate to 4 mana, and they probably also have other cards that want to accelerate afterwards. So like this on turn 2 or turn 3 with some fast mana, and then just vomit out your hand afterwards, or every subsequent turn after, like pump menace. This is very scary, and this could kill people in a lot of aggressive or even mid-range base black decks.
Yeah, only one color has Gary.
Yeah. All right, what do we got next?
I mean, it's a black 1-drop. I kind of want to give it to Nelson.
Nah, you take this one. You can say things about
Yeah,
this
you know
one,
what to
right?
say on this
It's
one.
fine. It's fine. Thank you.
Evolved Sleeper. 1 black for a 1/1 human. Pay a black. Evolved Sleeper becomes a human cleric with base power and toughness 2/2. Pay 1 and a black. If Evolved Sleeper is a cleric, put a death touch counter on it, and it becomes a Phyrexian human cleric with base power 3/3. And for 1 black, if Evolved Sleeper is a Phyrexian, put a 1/1 counter on it, and then you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So this is the black figure of destiny of the set. I gotta disappoint. I think this one is good comparatively to all the other ones.
All the other figures of Destiny?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They haven't really stood the test of time. Every non-figure of Destiny figure of
Yeah,
Destiny.
figure of Destiny is still kind of the best one, right?
It's just so good.
Yeah.
But like Death Touch is huge if you can get to that. Like, this can start outclassing other things on the board pretty quickly. And then when that's no longer an option, you can either just trade with it because it has Death Touch, or you can just start drawing cards. Like, anytime you have a 1-drop that is also relevant, like if it's relevant on turn 1 or turn 100, that's huge. Don't go to turn 100. But like the fact that you could draw this super late and be like, oh, I'm back in this game.
Yeah, the key here being you could activate the third ability multiple times.
Yeah.
Which is the best line of text on this card.
Over again. So like, if I'm playing like a mono black or black green aggro to mid range, Rakdos aggro to mid range, I'm down to clown. Maybe even like a delve deck too, like black green, like delve Tombstalker stuff. But there, it's probably the weakest. I think this card is at its best when you are like so happy you can draw cards off of it, but also if it just attacks for 3 for the rest of its life, you're okay.
Yeah.
Right. What's next? Nelly.
Knight of Dusk's Shadow. 2/2 for 1 and a black, a human knight with menace, and a very exciting line of text for Canadian Highlander. Your opponents can't gain life. It also pumps. It gets Knight of Dusk's Shadow gets +1/+1 until a turn for 1 and a black. So pumping power and toughness is pretty huge with menace. Makes combat math kind of awful. As soon as you got 4 up, suddenly your opponent has to figure out how to block this thing, which a lot of times will end up meaning it's kind of like a 2/2 unblockable. And then just stuffing your opponent from gaining life is relevant in a bunch of different scenarios in Canadian Highlander. I like it. What else do you want to say?
No, it's just like this and Ferocidon. I almost swore. It was forming, but Rampaging Ferocidon, menace plus can't gain life.
Yeah.
Is so hard to race.
My God.
It's just like, you can't just, a Thragtusk does nothing. It doesn't block my thing. You're not gaining the life. You can attack for 5, but that's whatever.
It's too late for that.
It's too late. Yeah.
This has been hitting you for like 3
This
turns
card is
already.
so good.
If this was printed in 2019, it would say +1, -1, right? Like,
yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, or 2019.
2019.
It might be...
drawn a card when it comes to play, too.
It'd be green, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next up. Ooh, oh man,
a reprint.
I'm in the right seat today. Like, holy moly, let's go. This is the one reprint we're going to talk about today. Lily's Back, 3-mana Planeswalker Liliana. For 1 black, enters with 3 loyalty. I think I said that like 3 times already. +1, each player discards a card. -2, target player sacrifices a creature. -6, separate all permanents target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of their choice. Now, this is a reprint. A lot of people who are familiar with the format probably already know this card. This is really great to have because it's very expensive. I guess the only thing I want to say by way of evaluation of this card is this is probably one of the most misplayed cards in our format.
Yeah.
Hey, that was like one of my intro story was like my worst misplay of Liliana of the Veil.
And the single most important piece of advice that you can give when piloting a Liliana of the Veil is you do not always have to activate it. It is often very correct to just pass by not using it.
Yeah, and it's totally okay. It's okay to play a Liliana of the Veil, -2 it, target your opponent, and then just wait until they attack it.
Yeah, let it fog after
That's
that.
Okay.
Decks that want to play this, black mid-range decks, reanimator decks, some like slower big black decks, Pox decks are happy to do this.
Lands, stuff with life in the loam.
Yeah, things that want to interact with the graveyard. Any way that you can mitigate the each player discards a card. If you're happy, like if you're a blue deck and you're doing delve stuff, you're like, great, I can fill my own hand with card advantage and I can get my Murktide Region out earlier.
But not every Brainstorm deck. That's the biggest misplaying of this card. Is people slamming it in blue-black X or every blue-black deck.
Correct.
Yeah.
As a like control card, it's not actually necessarily going to make the cut.
No. It's quite bad as if you're like a real hard control. It's just
your game plan there is card advantage, which Lily is not.
Right, yeah, and like blue mid range also maybe. Totally agree. Maybe not making it.
All right, let's keep going.
Shadowrite Priest, 1 in a black for a 2/2 human cleric. Other clerics you control get +1/+1. 3 black, tap, sack another cleric, search your library for a black creature card and put it into play.
How many other clerics are there?
There's Mutavault.
Let's see, Masked Vandal.
So this is the hardest part I have in evaluating this card is I'm like, God, what else is a cleric that I care about?
That Evolved Sleeper turns into a cleric for a black. We just saw that, and that card's cool.
Cleric Tribal is filled with clerics. I'm not
Really? Name one.
Mutavault.
So real talk, Wheeler, what do you think of this?
I think it only has a home in Cleric Tribal. And Cleric Tribal, to be clear, real deck. A real thing you can do. It's basically like an aristocracy style deck because a lot of blood artists are clerics or cleric, except for actual blood artists, I think.
The irony.
You have a whole bunch of cards that reanimate other creatures or like rebuy creatures. You get to do soul sistries kind of things. It's a deck. I've mentioned it before. Cleric Clan Friarworks is what I call it. Yeah. And so I'd play this. I mean, even if it just fightens Aura, which is like one of the most important cards of the deck.
You're going to have to explain that one. What? Aura? How do you spell it?
ORAH.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
It's 2 black and a white for a 3/2 flying. No, 3/2
Right.
3/3 lifelink. Very rarely attacks. It's a 3/3 core cleric for 4 with lifelink. Whenever it or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric with lesser mana cost
Right.
from your graveyard to play.
Right.
That's busted.
Scrap Trawler.
Yeah.
Right.
But you have to do it with clerics.
For clerics.
Thankfully, you got a lot of clerics that, again, reanimate themselves or do things when they die, or you can sack them, or you care about all these triggers, you know, your Cruel Celebrants, Zulaport, Cutthroat kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's not the best deck in the world, but it's
getting support.
It's
That's
fine.
cool.
Yeah, it's a 3/1 deck, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
When I first looked at the Shadowrite Priest, I thought, oh, great. Like, there's got to be, someone's going to figure out a way to, like, get this into play. And then, you know, for 5 mana, they're putting Grizzlebrand into play from their library.
Yeah, Grizzlebrand, clearly. Yeah, that's where my brain went, too.
But then I reread it and was like, another cleric? Oh, no.
yeah,
That's not going to work out.
Yeah.
That's not going to work out for that deck.
I got to animate my Mutavault and then sack it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and then
6 mana.
I went to the same thought. I was like, Grizzlebrand, and then, I need to gather research clerics. I can't.
Some of you didn't play during Legions, and it shows.
It does. Yeah, I got in right after that.
Yeah.
You mirrored it. Yeah.
All right, what's up next? There you go, Nelly.
Ooh, I get a good card. Sheoldred, the Apocalypse. 2 and black, 4 mana for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. A 4/5 with Death Touch, and whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. This card's a crazy house. Like, I can't imagine Highlander players not wanting to play this for years to come. Like, it's just so powerful. Like, great stats, great ability, great way to win the game, great way to stabilize. Like, that, it's always going to be good, and it punishes your opponent for doing well.
Talked to like 5 people last night, and I was like, so you pick up any Dom U stuff? And they're like, the first thing they all said was like, well, I bought a Sheoldred and then whatever else.
Yeah.
And then a couple other cards.
Yeah. God.
This does such a great job of mitigating Black's pay life for card draw thing as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. We were just
Right?
talking about Grizzlebrand, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we don't even have to talk about like the Grizzlebrand infinite lines it can do with this, you know?
This is a great example of a legend that gets screwed over by Caracas, but not entirely, depending on the play patterns. And also, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, that'll happen, sure, but when it doesn't happen, why is it a 4/5?
Dark Ritual
Yeah,
has
why is-
never looked better.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Absolutely.
God.
Like, I think I wouldn't be surprised if in playtesting they started this at 3/4, because I think we would be playing this card at like 3/3. Like,
Yeah.
if it was a 4 mana 3/3 with Death Touch and all these other 2 abilities,
I'd be less excited about it, but I'd probably still play
I would
it.
still be like, I think you play this a fair bit, right?
Maybe they want to make it bigger than the Defiler.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, the fact that you can like play this next to a Storm's Wrath or whatever, like, it's really messed up that it's a 4/5. And again, like 2 life, just like braids. It's like they lose 2 life per draw or 2 life per the end of trigger. It's like that's a lot. It's happening
You
a
untap
lot of
with
times.
You untap with this, you win the game.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
only you only take 2 so many times.
Yeah.
All right, what's next? The Raven Man is a 2-mana 2/1 legendary human wizard for 1 and a black. At the beginning of each end step, if a player discarded a card this turn, create a 1/1 black bird creature token with flying, and this creature can't block. And then for 3 and a black and tap, each opponent discards a card, activate only as a sorcery. I don't love this. You're making a face at me. Now go with me. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to stand by it. I don't love this. There's a part of me that has always wanted to make like the Megrim deck do anything. That has wanted to make what's that stupid 2-mana enchantment that has all the text on it? You know the one I'm talking about.
Waste not.
Yeah, I've always wanted waste not deck to be a thing, like discard matters. Now I know what you're gonna say, but Surge, this is a perfectly serviceable card in a black aggressive deck. It's a 2-mana 2/1, and you're probably incidentally going to be playing hand attack, and it'll give you some birds, but the birds can't even block.
Okay, but Surge, this is a perfectly serviceable 2-drop in a black aggro deck. And then I blacked out halfway through your other.
So a black aggro deck is going to play 4 discard spells. Thoughtseize, Inquisition. Thoughtseize, I can picture
No,
the
just
cards.
those 2.
Thoughtseize, Inquisition,
Dits.
Duress.
Duress, thank you, and maybe Hymn to Torak.
Thoughtseize, Inquisition, Duress, Dread Fugue, Collective Brutality, Hymn to Torak.
All right, maybe. All right,
Torak,
I'll give you Collective Brutality. That's 5.
I
Liliana.
think Dread Fugue is pretty good.
Dread Fugue's really good.
I don't remember Dread Fugue.
It's a new one. It's 1 black for they reveal your hand. You can pick a CMC 2 or less, like really cheap. But it then has cleave.
Yeah, for 3.
Right. All right.
Cleave
now,
with any card.
Now, this is actually really important and a fascinating thing about 100-card singleton. And this was something that my buddy Nick used to be really great on, is the math of Highlander. So let's go on an opposite example here. You're a blue deck, and you want to not necessarily guarantee, but you want to say, in a game of Highlander, I want to reliably be able to counter 1 spell in a game, right? There's 1 crucial spell that I need to be able to counter, and then I can win. How many counter spells do you have to have in your deck in order to guarantee that, right? You're like, okay, how many cards do I see on average in a game? I get to 7 from the beginning. Let's say a game goes 5 to 10 turns. That means I'm going to see someone from 12 to maybe like 17 cards, or if I draw, it might get upwards of 20, maybe hit a tutor. There's not a lot. So there's a certain density of an effect you need in a deck for it to start doing something. So my point here is, with the Raven Man, even if you have 6 discard spells, there is a very high chance of multiple games where you have the Raven Man and you don't hit a single discard spell. At which point, this is just a 2-mana 2/1. Maybe in a board style you have an activated ability, but I'm just wondering if there's better black aggressive cards that wants, like all the Carnophages, for example, like just more stats as opposed to trying to get value out of this activated this triggered ability. I'm getting to Wheeler slightly. He's gone from, his eyes have changed ever so slightly. You have to really zoom in on the eyes there.
No, I'm just trying to figure out how I want to word this. So your opponent is also playing Magic, and there are a lot of cards that they will have that will cause them to discard.
I didn't think about looting.
So any kind of looting effects, any kind of like Ledger Shredder triggers,
Any red decks playing Faithless
looting,
Yeah.
Tainted Indulgence, like, there's a whole bunch of cards that they can play. And like a 2-mana 2-power creature in black is already fine. Like, black has traditionally not had great 2-drops.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so any 2-drop that they get that can push for 2, which this can do, provide some flexibility later on in the game if you want to start like pulling out cards from their hand in a board stall, or maybe that's just how you think you're going to win the game, is by like starting to rip apart their hand a bit more. And then making evasive creatures also huge, right? Evasive creatures that help provide some kind of reach for your deck that doesn't have access to burn is big. Not to mention these birds can all just get skull clamped, sacked to carrion feeder. All these birds carry a Jite. Like,
Every single one of them.
It's a whole package that like if you don't come across the triggered ability from just playing Magic the Gathering, you can force that ability to start going off if you want to. And like, it doesn't look like it's much, but the cost, like that ability is just free. Like it's just tacked on. So like sometimes you play a Bob and it just trades with a creature.
That's true.
Or it just
that
eats a burn spell. And you just, again, like you said, density is important.
Yeah.
And this goes in a different way where it's like, yeah, you need the density of those 2 drops. And this is just an upgrade to like Glint Sleeve Siphoner or what's a bad 2 in black?
I'm actually really curious on your thoughts. Yeah, because you play so many low to the ground black decks, right?
I know, like as the years go by, the like casting the mana curve has started to be like 1s and 3s.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I think my favorite 2-drop next to Bob right now is just the 2/3 Aetherborn with Death Touch and
Gifted.
Lifelink.
Gifted
Aetherborn. Like I don't think I would cut Gifted Aetherborn for this thing.
No.
But
Wouldn't cut Gifted Aetherborn for this thing.
But I like that it makes flyers. That's sweet.
Wouldn't cut Gifted Aetherborn for this
Well,
thing.
you play
Which is
both.
not to
It's
say
so
that
much
this is
work.
which is not to say like 2 mana, 2/3 vampire for black Death Touch Lifelink. Like that's a lot going on. I mean, it took a long time for people to cut Vampire Nighthawk from their mid range and aggro decks as well. But I mean,
some of us never did.
Dark Ritual Vampire Nighthawk.
Yeah. Your turn.
Yeah.
Can you beat this? No, I don't know. I think the Raven Man could have a lot of uses, and like the most important thing I got out of what Wheeler said is just like, yeah, you're playing Magic, and so this card really deserves some reps to find out, like in your meta, like how often are people just discarding cards on their turn, because it triggers on each end step. So if you have the mana for the activated ability, or you can cast a spell that on their turn you might be getting 2 birds, like.
And it's just if a player, you can discard too.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have like Black has a lot of ways that you just like discard stuff or loot stuff or
Yeah. That's
Actually,
important, too.
this is like turn 2 this, turn 3 Rotten Regisaur. You're
Yeah.
all right. Okay.
Yeah.
There you
One
go.
of us. One of us. Join the
have-
flock.
I play Rotten Regisaur a lot.
Yeah.
Rotting Regisaur.
All right, Wheeler, what's next?
Well, it's not a cleric lord. Writhing Necromass. 6 and a black for a 5/5 zombie giant with Death Touch, but the spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your graveyard. Dredge. That's all. It's really all the only place I want to play it. I mean, I've played the Boneyard Worm / Ghoul Tree deck before. Not
No. Yeah.
We didn't win that tournament.
yeah. Sorry, dear viewer.
so. The big thing about this card in Dredge is that it's very easy, like exceedingly easy to get this to 1 mana or 2 mana. It's a zombie, which is great for Gravecrawler because you get that, lets you rebuy it. So you could find this off of Survival of the Fittest, play it, and then get the Gravecrawler back. You're living your best life. It being black also means that it taps for Hogak, another huge, very important thing. And then it's just a 5/5 Death Touch, which is very big. Gurmag Angler didn't really like. I've tried Gurmag Angler and Dredge, and other Dredge pilots have also, experimented with playing more of the Delve threats, but like they don't hit all of the buttons. Like Gurmag is fine because again, you got survival lines where you need it for Hogak, but like the Necromass just does so much more. Right? It lets you set up the Vengevines, cast it for cheap, and then get back the Vengevine and still have it pay for Hogak or whatever. And it's so big. Yeah.
Nice.
I think that was our last black card.
I just want to say that I think you should put this in your Sultai Delve deck as well, and just like run the challenge of like, yeah, you got to hit this and then the Delve spell, and then your opponents are just so mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're so greedy. That should never have worked.
Why would you do this to me? How did you draw such a perfect sequence?
All right. Next up, our first red card, Nelly.
It's Defiler of Instinct. 2 red for a 4/4 Phyrexian Kavu with first strike, and of course the Defiler ability, and whenever you cast a red permanent spell, Defiler of Instinct deals 1 damage to any target. Now this one is kind of the most terrifying of the Defilers because there's already a deck that's like revolves around. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I didn't do it in time. We're supposed to do it together.
Man.
Yeah, ancient tomb mana. There's this really good deck called Medium Red that Wheeler invented a long time ago. That this just seems like it was made for, where you get to cast your dragons cheaper and burn them down faster and take out their flying blockers. And yeah, it just seems like Medium Red is gonna throw a welcome party for this card.
All right. Now, at this point, we've talked about 4 out of the 5, but this one is so good. I actually want to have this conversation right now, which is Defilers ranked. And I am of the opinion that this is the best Defiler.
Agreed.
And my order would probably go red and then black. And it's very close for first place for me. And then probably green. And then the other two I don't really care about.
Okay, I think that this one, it's not like my favorite to be playing, but it's probably the one that's going to get the most wins. So I guess I should agree it goes this one first, and then black second, I think is also true. Yeah, sorry.
It could be a three-way tie for third, too, if we don't care.
I'm looking forward for Wheeler saying that the white one is better than the green one, but
Yeah.
I think I also like the green one the most. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it when it comes around, but I think green is third for me. So the red and black ones are just, I think they're going to have easier time having powerful homes in Highlander. The green one, like, is the most fun and, like, can blow up the board the fastest or whatever. And then the white one, and then the blue one last.
I think it's important to acknowledge that we're not necessarily just looking at the card in a vacuum, which is like, because obviously the word draw card are the 3 most powerful words in Magic. But when you talk about a deck that's already powerful, what kind of an impact is the inclusion of the Defiler going to make in that deck? And this is absurd. Yeah.
Replacement equity.
Yeah.
Or this is probably a better way of wording it. Because my ranking is red,
Yep.
black, white, green, and blue. I put the white above the green one because the green one's just a big idiot.
Yeah, it's
And,
a colossal
like,
dread mob.
Yeah. I played a lot of medium green. I played a lot of thick green. And I played a lot of hoof. And out of all the 5 drops in green that are available, like, Defiler's just one of many big idiots. Like, I'd rather play Colonian Hydra.
I do like the green one in Elves. Just because you do have the opportunity to snowball a lot of spells over and over. You're making that face at me that you do.
Well, the green one in Elves is kind of interesting because you could maybe do, like, Devoted Druid stuff.
Yeah.
But even then, like, if I'm playing Elf Tribal, I would rather just Natural Order.
I mean,
or
yes,
Turbo
yeah.
Draw into... I would rather use card slots to expedite my combo or my draw into killing them than devoting to something like this that doesn't have any utility outside of being a thick donkey.
Yep.
And sometimes that's okay, but green has so many of them. The white one does something unique, has an archetype it can show up in, and what else? There we go. Yeah.
So you heard it there. Red Defiler, best Defiler.
So good. Oh
I mean,
my God.
little call for interaction here. Let us know what you think your 5 are ranked. I'm very curious about this.
Drop us your ranks, and also if there's any cool combos with any of the Defilers that we haven't put together yet. Or, like, I'm curious to see lists that, like, maybe if you've got a place for the blue Defiler to shine, like, I'm curious.
Drake.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Next up, the Electrostatic Infantry. This is a 2-mana 1/2 dwarf wizard for 1 and a red. It has trample, which is probably the most important line on this card, and has the ability, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a +1/+1 counter on the infantry. A lot of these growth threats, I mean, they do it. This goes in the blue-red spells deck or blue-red X spells deck. Maybe green is pretty happy there as well. The problem with growth threats is it's very easy to put a chump blocker in front of them, especially if you're playing against a counter deck. This having trample makes this between a card that's fine versus a card that's a very reasonable threat and inclusion into that deck. So if you want to play a lot of cantrips or a lot of giant growths or maybe even some berserks, winky face, the infantry probably has a home. Yeah.
Yep.
Moving on.
Density of Sprite Dragons. Yep.
Jaya, Fiery Negotiator.
F.
Oh, that's interesting. She appears to be alive in this picture. 2 red for a legendary planeswalker, Jaya, with 4 starting loyalty. +1, create a 1/1 red monk token with prowess. -1, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them, and you may play that card this turn. -2, choose target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you attack this turn, Jaya deals damage equal to the number of attacking creatures to that creature. And -8, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a red instant or sorcery spell, copy it twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. This card's bad.
Okay, you want to
Yeah.
elaborate?
I hate how it
no
protects
further
itself.
questions.
I hate how it draws cards. I hate how it protects itself. I hate how it takes care of your opponent's threats.
I don't think
just a terrible card.
I don't think it takes care of your opponent's threats.
Yeah,
That's
okay, that
the
part's
big
a little
one.
sketchy. That's
It
true.
does protect yourself, but it protects it with those tokens are terrifying if you're able to untap and start to take over the game. But like, that's the best part of this card is that when this card inevitably dies because it's not worth keeping around, you actually have a token that's relevant, like a 1/1 with prowess. It's just, where am I playing this? Why is this my top end? And how come you haven't, drank from the goblet of crackling Drake sort of thing? Like, it's just, I don't think it does enough. I think it's too expensive. I think the homes don't need more 4-drops. This is always the biggest thing, is that when it's a 4 or a 5, do we need a new one? If it's Minsk and Boo, sure. If it's not, probably not. Like, why am I playing this?
Do you still play Jace the Mind Sculptor? Is that still good?
Occasionally.
Now, I would say Jace is better, though, because Jace can unsummon the tournament lands. It has immediate board impact. So on an empty board, I'd say Jace and Jaya are both pretty good. Jaya might be maybe slightly better because it can win faster, but Brainstorm, if you get a free Brainstorm every turn, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
If you're behind on board, Jace can start to stabilize. That unsummon is so big. Whereas Jaya, you're like, oh, I guess I make a 1/1.
You could play this in big red. That's what I'll give. That's my ticket to the audience.
Yeah.
Is you can play this in big red because it blocks it. It acts as like an outpost siege kind of card.
If your curve goes up to Ugin, maybe.
yeah.
If your curve goes up to Ugin, then maybe the -1 seems a lot better to you. And
Yeah.
like that's the -1 is like the thing about this card that I'm the most excited for because it can make these threats with prowess, right? So it has the potential to close out the game with just the +1. Keeps itself alive with the +1. So hopefully you're going to get to untap with it in -1, and then the -1 like helps you dig. Like
The fact that you see 2 cards with that
Yeah.
-1 is big because most of those it's flip the top card, right? Like that's pretty big.
Yeah, but the urgency to playing it means that you can't, like, it's a little less reliable if you're playing any kind of reactive.
Yeah, or just play Karn if you want to like look at a couple
like
cards and
Karn.
get one of them. Like
No, I think you got a good point though. Like at 4 mana red planeswalkers, like I'm not sure that this one's necessarily better than the torch, right? And
The torch.
the torch.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah. And like definitely it's not a Minsk and Boo, so yeah, I might just come around. Like I like seeing new planeswalkers that have clearly been pushed and that like
Look at
R&D
this,
wants us to play.
-4 damage.
I like trying out new planeswalkers in Canadian Highlander, but
Yeah.
it's possible this one is just going to join the bench
Yeah.
after various red players try it for a few weeks.
All right, Nelly, take our next card here.
Chandra, Torch of
No.
Phoenix Chick. We've got this is an interesting one. So 1 red for a 1/1 Phoenix with flying and haste and can't block. I love all these abilities. Also, whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you may pay red. If you do, return Phoenix Chick from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking with a +1/+1 counter on it. So you got a 1/1 flying haste with the threat of being later a 2/2 flying haste for 2. Or a 1/1 flying haste for 1, I should say. And several 2/2 flying hastes for 2, maybe, depending on how many times it trades off. Attacking with 3 or more creatures does happen in red deck wins, and maybe some other decks. Yeah, I could see this deck getting played in red deck wins. I'm looking forward to losing to it. I'm not sure where it stacks up against all the 1-drops because I'm just not a red deck wins expert anymore. But maybe it has some other homes. Sort of Boros attacking deck. Does anyone else want to say anything about this card?
Well, it does hold equipment pretty well.
Does
Does
hold
hold
pretty
equipment
well.
pretty well.
The flying is big on that. Yeah, like maybe red white tokens, red white battalion. Red white battalion isn't really a deck, but it could be.
Yeah.
It's a slam dunk in mono red.
Yeah,
That's the-
RDW.
that's the-
yeah.
Yeah. Seems like a good red 1-drop.
There isn't really. I mean, we'll get there in the comments first. There isn't really a dedicated Phoenix archetype in Highlander because there's only one of them. It doesn't work as well. So, there's the idea of like just simply bin it because I've seen it happen in Modern. That's not a deck.
Arclight Phoenix. I thought you were talking about Phoenix Tribal.
No,
I thought
Yeah, I thought you were like, there's only
No.
one Phoenix, period.
No, Arclight
Yeah.
Phoenix. I'm sorry, I should have been more specific on that.
it's
Yeah, there's
good.
like that's a whole archetype in other constructed
Yeah,
magic.
yeah.
That's not a thing here. All right, let's move on. Radha's Firebrand. This is a 2-mana 3/1 human warrior for 1 and red. Whenever it attacks, target creature defending player controls with power less than Radha can't block this turn. And it has a domain ability for 5 and red. It gets +2/+2 until end of turn, but it costs 1 less for every domain, but you can only do that once. This is, again, a perfectly serviceable card in a red deck. The fact that it doesn't say can't block Radha, can't block
anything.
anything is very big. You can basically ignore the domain text. Are you doing 4-color blood here? I'm saying don't do it to me.
No, even just red green. Like 4 mana is not.
It'll get there eventually, but I'm saying like that's an upside. You probably play it without it. It's also a human and a warrior, which are both very relevant tribes. So you might even be able to get to additional value out of it. But yeah, if you're a red aggressive deck, this is a very good red aggressive card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Just ignoring the bottom paragraph, put it in red deck. Like that's a bonus. It's a bonus.
It's a bonus. It's
Read
the
it in the
cherry
game.
on top.
Put it in the deck for the first paragraph.
Yeah.
You'll activate it.
I'm not
mono
saying
red.
you won't.
Well, then quit saying ignore.
Okay, that's fair. Have cover one eye.
Oh.
Just put it in your deck for the first paragraph.
Paul,
and then
bring up
play...
the next Cleric
Yeah,
Lord. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Okay, you got a good card.
Next Cleric Lord.
Yeah, nice Cleric Lord here. Rundvelt Horde Master. 1 in a red for a 1/1 Goblin Warrior. Other goblins you control get +1/+1. Whenever Rundvelt Horde Master or another goblin you control dies, exile the top card of your library. If it's a goblin creature, you may cast that card until the end of your next turn.
God, I hate this.
Yeah, it's really good.
Why is it so good?
I don't know.
This is shockingly good.
Yeah.
It doesn't give them haste.
That's true.
It's not another haste lord.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first. Think about it this way. How good is goblins? No 2-mana lords.
I was gonna say, is this the
Yeah.
this is the
Like-
first ever
Yeah.
2-mana lord for goblins,
goblins.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Anything?
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, unless you count the mimic from Kaladesh or whatever, but
And we don't.
we don't. Though.
Or no, we do. We do.
Okay.
Combos with Putrid Goblin, of
You
course.
have to play that one.
Yeah, it's this and the next one that's coming up. Like, goblins didn't need.
They really didn't. Goblins didn't need this support in our format. Goblins has been a tier 1 list for like 12 years. And it
Yeah.
only keeps getting better. Why?
Way better from this. set.
Gob-
Like
gob-
this-
goblins
Yeah.
is like, even more so than Burn or just like traditional red deck wins. Goblins and Storm are the 2 decks where at any point in the game I feel like I could die.
Oh, out of
Like,
nowhere.
I never feel
Yeah.
truly comfortable until Mac has gotten out of his chair and has left.
Until the hand is shaking, you're
Yeah.
like, wait, is it over?
Yeah,
No
exactly.
way. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. And this card's only going to exacerbate that feeling. It's like, what if they draw that one? They're going to sack 2 things and
Yeah.
then play 4 lords and then make a bunch of mana.
We don't even need to talk about the fact that this has so many recruiter stack applications.
Oh, yeah.
Don't even need Goblin Ringleader anymore. You could just use this.
Yeah, like, so well, let's acknowledge this for just a second. Maybe people don't have an enfranchised Goblin player in here. So people might think this is great for Wrath protection or removal protection. Can you give us an example combo line wheeler? Just a baby one.
So there's this card called Goblin Recruiter. It's a 2-mana 1/1. When it comes to play, you search the library for any number of goblins and put them on top of your deck. And so that card, formerly pointed, incorrectly so, but still worth mentioning.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, this card, I mean, it's banned in Legacy.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
goblins is still good there.
Yeah.
Well, it's a thing. R.I.P. Mangucci. So you create a stack. There are a bunch of different ways you can do this. But basically, the stack involves Goblin Ringleader at the top, which is a 4-mana 2/2 that when it comes into play, you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck and put all goblins revealed. So this will
But they're
always
all
hit.
goblins.
I know, that's the best part. And so there are a couple different combos you can do. One of the more straightforward ones involves Skirk Prospector,
That's the big one here.
which is a red sack outlet. You sack a goblin, add a mana. Putrid Goblin, which is like a 2-mana 2/2 a goblin with persist. This is going to be hell for Paul. Like Mog War Marshal, which is a 2-mana 1/1 goblin that when it comes into play or leaves play, it makes a goblin. So basically just a bunch of goblins, and you can kill them with like Sling Gang Lieutenant. You can, if you have Metallic Mimic, you can set up an infinite loop with Putrid Goblin. If you're playing Grumgully in your list, you can set it up. Or you could create a different combo with Conspicuous Snoop and Kiki Jiki.
Oh, and just
where
look at the top. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a historic deck for a while or something like that too. Was the Snoop combos with stuff off the top?
Yeah, Goblin, like it. Yeah,
So Goblins isn't just an aggro deck; it's also a combo deck, and this new card has given it even more flexibility to be both.
Yeah, even without the the first one,
Recruiter?
the tutor one. Yeah, even without Recruiter, if you just can find your Prospector, you're gonna have
Yeah.
just Skirk Prospector, Runvelt Hornmaster combo. Like that's the combo. Sacrifice your other goblins, make more goblins, find more stuff, attack more.
Speaking of goblins.
Yeah. What's the next card, Paul? Go for it, Nelly.
Oh wait, there might be another one.
Speaking of goblins, if your opponent has too many of them, fly over them with Shivan Devastator. It's X red for a 0/0 Dragon Hydra with flying and haste. There's those beautiful abilities again. And Shivan Devastator enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. Well, they finally did it. They made a fireball that sticks around and attacks you again next turn. Yeah, this card is wild. Normally, Hydras don't have flying or haste. And they usually have some other fun ability, but the mana templating is normal and correct here, except that the top right pip's supposed to be green. And we're used to that from green. And it's like, they don't have haste ever. The Hydras don't get haste. So that's weird. And they don't get flying ever either. Hydras don't get flying. But dragons get both those things. And for some reason, now this one is both. I don't know what deck it goes into exactly. Big red,
Medium
obviously.
red, big red.
But does it go? Yeah, I guess medium red makes sense
Green-
too. Just
green
anything
red
with,
monsters.
Yeah, sure.
Green red monsters,
Green red
medium
monsters,
red,
yeah.
big red.
Yeah.
I want to try this in Blue Moon.
Okay.
Yeah,
actually,
or,
yeah.
Or like maybe Jeskai. Like the fact that you could play this and just like kill off a planeswalker is really appealing.
Yeah.
Obviously with Force of Wills and Force of Negations, you could just be like, right, smack you for 7 or whatever. It's just so flexible. Like people look at that and you're like, oh, I'm taking 8. And it's like, yeah, you might, but also might just chip over for 2. Might just kill a planeswalker. Might be that lethal off the top that they need.
Yeah, I guess in medium red it makes sense. Like you're going to be happy to include it in your deck so that you have something to do like on 4 if you have a draw with a bunch of 5-mana dragons or whatever, right? Like you still have something to do on your turn 3 or something before
Yep.
you've.
Sometimes you
gone
just
the
need a
rest of the
threat.
curve.
you
Yeah.
know?
No, I like it a lot, and obviously the decks with the most mana are going to make the most use out of
Yeah.
it. So I wasn't sure entirely which decks would try it, but if you're just like all the ones with red mana, that's fair.
Yeah.
It does look good.
All right, now show me Goblin.
Hey.
Squee, Dubious Monarch, 3-mana 2/2 legendary goblin noble for 2 and a black, has haste. Whenever it attacks, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking, and you may cast it from your graveyard by paying 3 and a red and exiling 4 other. What?
It has escape.
I keep laughing at all these abilities. It just keeps going. Why does it keep going? It just keeps coming back.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep, card looks real good.
I mean, we exhaustively talked about the strengths of goblins, its ability to create a lot of bodies, make mana out of that and stuff. Now it has a recurring threat that gives 2 bodies. Multiple bodies is good because they can pump each other. They can sack for multiple things. There's a lot of goblins that, there's a number of goblins that care about the number of other goblins that are there. So Squee does all of that. And I think the only thing that's left for Squee to do is to get the Planeswalker Spark and finish it off. It also has Ancient 2 mana. Yeah, so this could also see play in medium red, not just goblins. It's probably good enough. It actually seems like it'd be very, very strong in a medium red deck. Yeah. Green red aggro deck loves this.
Yeah.
This is very, 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 very good.
Yep.
Next up, Wheeler. And I believe this is our final card of the day.
Oh. Twinferno. One in a red, it's an instant. Choose one. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy, or target creature gains double strike until end of turn. I mean, if you're playing a blitz list, I think you can maybe sneak this in. Like, it does have some flexibility where you can like, oh, 2 lightning bolts. Oh, 2 ponders. Or 2 magmatic sinkholes, stuff like that. Like, there are instances where a lot of the blitz decks have the ability to remove 1 card, but not necessarily 2. And so being able to just have this as like, oh, here we go. In this instance, I just need to get these things out of the way of my Tarmogoyf. They are now out of the way of my Tarmogoyf. Or, oh, there's nothing in the way of my Tarmogoyf. Double strike. Kill you. You're dead. Flexibility is something that's pretty welcome in these lists that are very just like straightforward looking to do one thing. And this does kind of just everything those decks are all going to do.
Yep, that's fair.
Not exciting. Maybe a role player.
I mean, just the top half is like an improvement from like the red. Like there's like a rare spell or something that's like copy your next spell this turn.
Oh, dual cast?
Dual cast, yeah, exactly. I don't know if anyone has played that, but like I've played cards like this. Like I've played twin cast in blue-green and the one from Conspiracy that's similarly a blue
split decision.
Split decision. I've played those to copy Time Walk. So if you're in a blue-red deck that's copying spells, like this is a very easy to cast spell that doesn't have to spell or doesn't have to target a spell in the stack. Like the new templating of when you cast your next spell, you copy it, is an improvement on the old like twin cast and the old copy spells that needed to target a spell.
It was really clunky.
Yeah, you open yourself up for a 2-for-1 that like the new templating has prevented you from needing to do. So, yeah, that's nice.
All right, that will do it there, friends. Thank you so much for listening to part 2 of our set review. I've been Serge, joined by the wonderful Nelly.
Bye.
And Wheeler.
Aww.
A reminder that Northwood Hunter is brought to you by you, your support of the Patreon. Over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. If you think we missed any cards, if you have generally nice things to say about this episode, let us know down in the comments. If you have anything bad to say, don't. We'll be back with part 3. Yeah, let us know. Lots of interaction. We do read all the comments. We appreciate you. Thank you for listening, and we will see you in part 3 next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.